morning, good evening, good night, good afternoon. Don't give me copyright flag though.
No. You can cut this out.
I sounded like a zombie.
Oh.
Just.
Yeah, in order to grow, you gotta have like some kind of goals.
Let's roll off the intro and we'll jump right in.
Okay.
What's up? Good morning, good evening, good night, good afternoon. Whatever time you're listening in, wherever you're listening from, you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here. Take a moment to be present and recognize that it's now, right now. Whether your right now is working, running, driving, flying, be thankful we're alive, baby. Failure can be frightening. However, as Winston Churchill reminds us, success is all about going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. This is I Will Not Lose podcast. I'm your host, Tony Ortiz, but I have the pleasure of introducing Miss Barbara DiLeo of Amp Clothing. This is going to be a good one. I wanted to invite her on. We've been trying to make this happen for months now, ever since I met her at Carter McKinney's photo party. She had the setup similar to what we have here with Amp Clothing. And I got a little bit to pull her aside and hear her story. And I said, if you wouldn't mind coming on the podcast. So thank you for your courage. Thank you for coming on and sharing your story as a means of inspiration
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited, nervous, all at the same time. It's been a journey. I remember when I saw you there, and networking isn't a pretty amazing thing. Look where we are now. We would have never met each other if it wasn't for that. Carter, he really pulled that together amazingly, didn't he?
Right. Yeah.
So here I am. So I guess, I'll start off what I always say. It's what as soon as I first meet somebody, or if they ask about the brand, I say, "Hi, my name is Barbara DiLeo. I'm the mother of Marcus DiLeo Vereen." And he created Amp Clothing in 2018, and he passed away in 2019. And I made a promise to him that I would take over his clothing brand and continue his legacy, and to honor my son until like forever, So that's what I'm doing. And so, being that said, every time I say that, you have to smile. Right. So you smile because, you're not
people like that.
Yeah. Because people like that. Exactly. And so you have to smile. But for me inside, it's like, repeating that over and over and over can be tough, but I've learned that people, they start asking questions and they want to know the story, and I love talking about the story. I love talking about, everything that has to do with my son,
right.
Everything.
And so the Amp Clothing brand embodies his spirit, his fighting spirit.
Right. That's
what you're pushing and keeping alive through it. So it's really beautiful.
It's a legacy. It's a legacy. And it's behind the scenes of it. It's quite tough. But I'm pushing, and it's been 4+ years now since he has passed away. And, and the toughest part, the most challenging part was I'm a mother. My son was 20 years old. He was a total founder of Amp Clothing. I had nothing to do with this. I was part of his journey. I was with him through this journey. But in regards to Amp Clothing, I had nothing to do with it. So what am I going to do? So here I am faced in this position where I'm thinking I'm a grieving mother. I'm grieving terribly. It is the absolute worst thing that could ever happen when you lose a child, especially he died in my hands, and he fought for 37 days. My son had severe aplastic anemia, and also PNH and MDS. And what that entails is it's basically when your red blood cells, white blood cells, and your platelets kind of all just how can I say it? It just, everything goes down. You start losing blood, and you cannot create any more blood. You can't create any more platelets without supportive care. And what it ends up doing is it creates bone marrow failure. So my son was working at 2%, 7% bone marrow. And so being that said, it is a form of a blood cancer, and a very rare blood cancer. And it doesn't meet some of the forms of like leukemia and like, all of those different kinds of forms of cancer. So it's very rare, and, never heard of it. It just happened. He was 1 month away from turning 18 years old, captain of his football team, had a scholarship to go to Temple University for football. He had his life in his hands. He was an honor student beyond with school, and, a 3-sport athlete. He really,
Shining kid.
Yeah, absolutely. And then this happened. It just happens. It happened. And so one of the things I wanted to talk about today that my son really felt passionately about is, when you get these kinds of things, they look for the siblings to see if they could be a match. And my son and my family, we were not a match. And so what there is, it's called Be the Match. It's now called NM. What is it? I'm sorry. They just changed their name because it used to be the Match for years. They always have like, different names, but it's what is it? NB. It's National NMB. Oh gosh.
Like National Bone Marrow.
Oh my goodness gracious. This is going to bother me.
We'll come back to you as we're talking. But well, I guess we'll have to, come back to that. But no, NMDP. Okay. National Marrow Donor Program. Okay.
That's what it is. I apologize. Oh my goodness. No, I'm a little nervous.
You're
but
fine.
It's because they were known as Be the Match. So it's a registry that you go. It's a nationwide registry that you go to try to find a match. And my son was half black and half white. So his background, his ethnic background, 79% of white people are on the registry, and you can get it's a 79% chance that you can find a match. Unfortunately, with my son's, with his ethnic background, it was a 29%. And so he was trying to passionately, he went on the news a few times. He had Be the Match drives, also blood drives as well. He spoke of it very, very much in public, to get people to really of different ethnic backgrounds, not just white backgrounds, but to come forward and to join the registry, to be a donor, because when you do that, it multiplies then of when you can actually find, a match. Right. When that happens. And so for my son, he was half black, and his ethnic background, the tissue is actually very different than what mine is. It's extremely different. And so it goes to, that's where we have to search for. So we needed to find somebody of my son's ethnic background of being black to be the donor. 29% chance of finding it on the thing.
But
so
that's really admirable to use the fight. Obviously the news, the publicity was for building awareness for his case, but he used that not only for himself, but selflessly to just promote that. I saw in the notes that he had a tie-dye sale, raised $500. So to put money into the cause that is there to support you. That's like really holistic. I found that really admirable.
I couldn't believe he was doing it. I was like, you're having, so to backtrack quick to get to that, he finally, after 2 years and 4 months, found a donor. It was a 9 out of 10 donor. But of how the genetics are, they can work with a 9 out of 10 donor. So he finally went for his bone marrow transplant, and it's a process. They take you to ground zero. It's not something, the actual patient itself that is getting the bone marrow transplant, it's a very tough, they take you to ground zero. They kill every cell in your body, and blasts of all kinds of cocktails of every kind of chemo and radiation to the highest amounts to kill every cell in your body and to kill your existing bone marrow. It's very tough. It's like you're slowly killing, it's so you can create and, connect with another life, another DNA. So he was in there and he was very sick. And he said, I want to have a tie-dye sale and raise money for the kids. He loved the kids. He felt so much for them, because they were so young. They didn't know what was going on. They're confused, and when they would see him, my son was like 6'3", 280 pounds, like muscle, and very, very strong and tough. And he looked scary at first, but then he just went down with him and played with him, talked to him all the time. So while he was having the transplant, he raised $500 through his tie-dyes, and he donated it to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, the bone marrow transplant unit for the children, their kids' room, for their toys. So he did that while he was having the transplant. That was a lot of work, and it was pretty amazing that he did that. And it inspired me of things of why, I continue to do those things today now. So that was something else.
Wow.
Yeah, that was something else.
It leads into just the background, the mission statement of AMP Clothing and what your, the legacy that you're pushing, the mindset. It's more than a clothing brand. It's not just a logo, even though the clothing is beautiful. Thank
you. Well, everything is his, but yes, it's not just it's not just a brand. It's a lifestyle, and that's his exact words. Actually, the brand it's not just clothing; it's a lifestyle. And in his mission statement, is AMP, any means possible. AMP is the empowerment of oneself, the will and the drive that we seek through hard work that shows real character. I want to inspire, elevate, and help people in so many ways. Keep going and put the effort and hard work into where you want to go for true desire to live and will to live. That is the mission statement. And I have that mission statement actually on every single piece of clothing, the tags, it's the empowerment in oneself, we go through, one thing that my son really, when he established AMP Clothing in 2018, it was not just because he was sick. My son prevailed and had to do through a lot of different obstacles, physically and mentally, from this, we all do, right? From the time, he was, young boy up. And so he was really passionate about, inspiring and trying to empower people to take control of their physical being, of their mental being, like he was trying to do with himself. And he knew it wasn't tough. That it wasn't easy, and he wanted people to wake up in the morning when, at the end of the day, and this is the truth. We have lots of people, most people don't, some people do. The people that come into your life and they give you great positive affirmations, very positive, they lift you up, and it's great for that moment.
Yeah.
It's great for that moment. And it can inspire you throughout that day. It truly can. And then, you're left with yourself. You're still left with yourself. You still have to make your own choices and decision making, and, you can't run away from yourself. You can't. And, so my son, he really believed in that, you can fall. You can fall. You can fall every night if you have to. But that next morning, you got to get right back up. And what do you do when you get up? You get dressed. You look at yourself in the mirror. And when you're wearing AMP clothing, you're wearing thousands of stories. You're not just, we all want to wear something that means something. How many times do you get something and, you like it because it's great. First of all, it's great material, garment, of course, that's number one, right? But what does that clothing really mean? How is that going to inspire you? Is it just going to, is it really, how is it going to uplift you up throughout your entire day? You're going to go on a job interview. You're about to, do something that you've never did before.
Right. Meet somebody new,
and so you want to have that, you want to be inspired. You want to have that empowerment. And again, you're by yourself. And when you're wearing AMP clothing, no one fights alone. Because when you're wearing AMP clothing, you're with so many others at that time that are fighting through for themselves, and that are really are fighting through.
Right.
So so he wanted clothing that that really
embodied his spirit.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
How has that helped you with the pushing the brand? And it's work. I know you wanted to tell some people about the work. You've done multiple events now with another one coming up. So
yes,
let's talk about the behind the scenes, what sort of work goes into building and pushing the brand.
So it's me and my daughter and my 2 little grandchildren. They help me with AMP clothing too. Yeah, it's cute. So behind the scenes of AMP clothing from the beginning until now, I've raised money for charities. I've given back to PICU over in CHOP, Lehigh Valley Hospital families I pick out, and I give donations too. So when we do the tie-dye events, we do tie-dye events yearly. This particular past year, unfortunately, due to some personal issues with my own health situations, I had to back off from doing the tie-dye event this year, which I am going to bring back out. It just had to be delayed a little bit. But so I do a tie-dye event every year, and the money that I raise, half of the proceeds go to charities, and then the other half goes back into AMP clothing. I pretty much do everything by myself. I'm a pretty solo with it. I'm very particular of how I like things, and everybody has their lives. And this is something that is my passion so much. I mean, I'll sit in my basement with my machines and come up with, my son has a lot of designs that aren't finished. And then he has a lot of designs that I have to wait to release because I need a substantial amount of time now, right? Which is tough, because, I can't just throw everything on the on the shelf or on the
machine.
Yeah, the machine. I can't do that because I need to stretch it out for some time now because I'm never going to give up on. So I do, we did what's coming up right now is the annual pop-up of 2024 every year for the celebration of my
Mm.
What better way to, first of all, have a distraction. Sorry.
That makes sense. A distraction.
Right. So every year, for a distraction and to celebrate and to
right.
It's a celebration. But every single year since his passing, I do an AMP pop-up. And I've always done them at my home. And that's not always the best thing to do,
right.
And so the marketing of that, I had to really tone down a lot, but I got great, wonderful turnouts, with that. I even did it during the pandemic.
Oh, okay.
And, I had it a certain way when people had to come in and so forth, and everything. So So I do that every year. And again, I donate to charity, and then it goes back into AMP clothing. And this year, this is going to be the biggest event that AMP Clothing has ever had. I'm very excited about it this year. Like this year, this year is a big one. So,
where's it at?
It's going to be at, what is it, 901 Jefferson Street. It's at the Memorial, Jefferson Memorial, right behind the old Toys R Us over in Whitehall.
In Whitehall? Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's going to be, the 901 Jefferson Street in Whitehall. That's where it's going to be. So the Fullerton Memorial Athletic Association, that's where it's going to be at. So free parking, lots of parking. You don't have to worry about where you're going to park. And, organ donation awareness that day. Event, DJ Romeo is going to be there. He's my favorite DJ in this valley. He's just like amazing. Yeah. Shout out to Romeo. So I'm really excited that he's a really big part of what it is that I'm going to be doing. Carter McKinney is going to be there. I love Carter McKinney. He is the networking king. I call him, for sure. I mean, he's just he's really connected with AMP Clothing in a very close way. So he's also going to be there as a vendor and also as a photographer as well. That's
awesome. Big shout out to Carter.
Yes. And so there's going to be a lot of organizations there. I'm doing a blood drive. It's called Adopt a Day blood drive. Unfortunately, they couldn't get a truck out there. We are in a crisis with these, blood banks right now of staffing, donors. And so it's tough. So what I'm doing is a Adopt a Day blood drive for that week for my son. So people can just click on a QR code and be able to sign up to in honor of his name and to give blood at a later time. So I hope people will do it because it saves people's lives. I mean, it saves them a day, an hour, a day, a week, a month, a lifetime giving blood. If it wasn't for people giving blood, my son would have died the very first night that I brought him into the hospital. If it wasn't for people doing that. So it's extremely important. It really is. It's so important to give blood. Anyway, and then I'm going to have a lot of special guests there as well. Smooth is going to be there from Temple University, a brotherhood that my son was involved in when he was at Temple. He did go to Temple University for that year.
Oh, that's amazing.
He was sick, but he still went to Temple University, not on the scholarship. That's another story. But he did go for that year. And so Smooth Brothers is going to be there as special guests as well. So anyway, so I'm going to have a lot of performances there. Rafik is going to be there. He's a Christian rapper, gospel rapper.
I listened to him. Yeah, I listened to really like On and On, his song On and On.
Yes. So he's going to be there. I met him at
the photo party.
At the photo party.
Same here, yeah.
I think it was it the second photo party or the first photo party?
He was at the first one.
Okay, the first one, yeah.
Because I did the video for the two of them.
Right.
And I remember he was at the first one.
Yeah. So he's going to be there. So that's going to be exciting too. I'm coming in with a really big power speech that's going to start off with a really big fashion show. That is what I'm really excited and nervous.
Fashion show.
Yeah. So
yeah.
And the G block, if we call it the G block, is going to be there. It's a lot of my son's friends. They were like a family. And, they're coming all together for this and they're really excited for this. So they're making sure they're coming all together. That's how we're going to start I call it the introduction to, the event on that day. And then we're going to have, like I said, a lot of other vendors are going to be there. Sneakerheads are going to be there. Fly Heaters is going to be there. Frank is going to be there. Frank, the collector. Yeah. Which was actually one of my son's best friends. So he's going to be there as a vendor. Serena Berries is going to be there as a vendor.
This is going to be huge.
Yeah. Serena Berries is going to be there. A-Town representing. Have you ever heard of him? So he's going to be there as well. He really represents Allentown, and he's very, very positive, and I met him through my journey of networking as well, and Nombre is going to be there. Nombre Garments is, Raul is a very close friend of my son's, and he is one of many, but a big one that really inspired my son to get into the clothing business. Yeah. So, so he's going to be there, which is great. Ricky Dutchman's going to be there. He's a graffiti artist. Who else is going to be there? I just want to make sure. Oh, and, Team Trent is going to be there. Her name is Jody. She also lost her son, and she's also going to be talking about organ donation as well.
Okay.
Yes, and she's also she's a best-selling author right now. So she's also going to be there, a special guest as well, and also to talk about organ donation as well, which is exciting. And her and I, we both have champions, I say, of our children, so we are in that same, boat in a lot of ways. And she's passing her legacy on in another way that she'll be able to explain when she's, if somebody goes to the event. Okay. And Thrifty Tees is going to be there. You remember them? They were at the photo shoot. So, vintage clothing. And so, I really have a good relationship with them. So they're going to be there too, which is really great. And, people are going to come in and, it's a ticketed event. I've never done a ticketed event before. And the money is going to go back into charity. I'm going to be picking the charities of my choices and back into AMP clothing, just like I've been doing. But this is a ticketed event, and so nobody can get in without a ticket, but it's for a great cause.
Yeah, we'll put some information on how listeners can get tickets. This will air before the event. Right. So
I also have another author, best-selling author, or not. She's another author, and she's a poet, and she's going to be performing in China, and she's going to be
China.
Yes,
okay.
She's good. Did you see? I put it on the Instagram with her.
Oh, I saw her. I met her at Empower 610 Day, and I saw her in the clip for Empower 610 wearing AMP clothing. Yep. It's funny. I was just talking to somebody. I was like, I'm going to have Barbara from AMP Clothing. Yeah. And we talked about it. I said, she's going to be on the podcast. Then when I'm scrolling my phone, the very top thing was that, and she was wearing AMP. And I was like, look at that. Like, how serendipitous. It's crazy.
Isn't that so, right there? Yeah. Yeah. She was really good friends with my son. In high school and for, a long time. And I love that she takes AMP on her journey. She really takes, any means possible, honestly, right on her journey with her. It's pretty amazing. So she's going to be there. So I'm excited that she's going to be there as well. Rest of Souls is going to be there. They are a biker club for security. So they're going to be there as well. So security will be on site as well. And listen, it's going to, and at the, how the event's going to go is, there's so many different things that are going to be occurring. And of course, you can buy AMP clothing there then as well. And you're going to get a nice meal and some drinks. And we're going to celebrate at the end of the night. It would have been my son's 25th birthday. And what better way to celebrate than saving lives, impacting people, spreading awareness.
Yeah.
And coming together as a community to try to make a difference. That's what my son ultimately always wanted, was to make a difference. And, and I'm his messenger, and I will be his messenger for a lifetime to come, more and more and more every day. It's very hard as a mother. It's very hard to be taken seriously too, behind the
Right.
scenes, listen, behind the scenes of it all, I'm working constantly on amp clothing, trying to I stand in my basement. Okay, Marcus, what is it that you want me to do to finish this? When am I going to do this? When am I going to do that? I got to get this screen printed. I got to get that screen printed. And to organize everything, as like it's a lot. Like
It's a lot.
it's a lot. It's, but I love it.
Yeah, you gotta
I'm
love
not
the
complaining.
process. It's fulfilling. I mean, to be able to push to any means possible in anything. I mean, that's why I started the podcast in this
Right.
theme. There's all sorts of stuff you can talk about and put a show together, but I wanted to remind myself every week, every other week, there's a reason to keep going. There's days I wake up, I don't want to do anything. You know what I mean? And I didn't lose a child, God forbid. So I can only imagine, but being able to push it, how can people donate and what, you never know who's listening.
Well, right now I have how you can donate right now to me regarding, blood, obviously Keystone, Miller Keystone Bank, Blood Bank, and then obviously registering for Be the Match, which is the, like I said, the, oh my goodness gracious, the NMDP now, registering for that. And to donate back into AMP Clothing, to reach me on Instagram, my IGN Instagram, AMP Clothing _ And also I have a website, anymeanspossible.myshopify.com. Those are the two areas that I have right now. I'm working on the website. That can be a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. So, and like I said, I do everything solo, with the help of my daughter, for sure. She puts in her input as well. But solely it's me. And, so I'm working really hard on trying to set everything up, perfectly, but definitely to reach out to me, on there, and also I have Beacons on there now. When you go on Beacons, you can text message me right off the bat,
Okay.
make a call, and it's right out in the Instagram,
in the bio.
Right. In my bio, you go right on there and you can message me in that way as well. And there's also, Venmo on there and Cash App on there if anybody would ever want to donate into AMP Clothing and to, to really help create, this mission. I mean, it's a mission. This is definitely a mission like no other, when you are, taking over somebody's legacy, especially when it's your son's legacy, you don't want to embarrass them and you don't want to,
Right.
I mean, I'm the mom. Like, how am I going to do this? That's what I was doing so much in the background while I'm grieving. My story behind AMP Clothing, the scenes was very tough. And, and I questioned myself a million times. Am I the one that's supposed, why did you trust me to do this? I mean, the last words my son ever said was, I love you and I trust you. And I couldn't save him. But he fought for 37 days. Real quick to backtrack, what ended up happening, I don't want anyone to think he died from having the bone marrow transplant. After the transplant, he was there for almost 2 months and he came home and he was home for 4 weeks. And all of a sudden he got a fever. We thought it was they called it a hiccup at the time, which I hate that word now, hiccup. I hate it. But they call it a hiccup. And they said, so we had to ambulance him back to Philadelphia and he was there and I had to go back to work. That's another story. All right, let me not get off track. Anyway, and he was there for 7 days and all of a sudden one day he couldn't breathe. And from then on, he was on and off of, he was on 3 different ventilators. Before he went on a vent, I was there with him and, we were trying to figure out what was going to be happening. And basically what was happening is his lungs were cementing shut.
Mm.
We had no idea why, though. They said, we don't know why. And that's the hard part. Somebody kept saying, I don't know. And he was still on grafting. And grafting meaning still connecting to his new DNA. He was at 90, I think at the time, 97% match of the DNA. So there was nothing wrong with the actual bone marrow transplant. But of course, as a mom, I was like, this, I was getting, I'm a very big, huge advocate for my children. And I had a very huge role in that hospital. Anyone that knows me and knows in that time, it was very raw and real. And, anyway, and so he was on ECMO and all kinds of machines, dialysis. He was having multiple organ failure. So when he went to when he was about to go on, when the start of all of that, he couldn't talk much because he couldn't breathe very well. And I was trying to give him ice chips and so forth. And we decided that he was going to go on a vent, and he passed all medical rights over to me, which was confusing at first. As a mom, you're like, what? Yeah. And then, and to find out then, that he had to go on a vent, and he just decided so. And then he talked to me about AMP clothing. And then he said, I love you and I trust you. And he went off. And then when he came back from getting all of that taken care of, getting on a vent, they said that he's going to die immediately when they came back. Immediately. And so this is my story of letting everyone know of any means possible, how my start of it was they came back and they said, he's going to die any minute. His lungs are totally cemented. And I'm like, what happened? What's wrong? What is it? We don't know. They had no idea what was wrong with him. And here I am in the biggest hospital. I'm thinking to myself, how do they not know what's wrong with my son? And so my start of my journey was the moment I said, if it was you or me, what would you do? Well, we would put you on ECMO, which is an artificial lung machine. I said, then why aren't you doing that for him? And they said, he's a bone marrow transplant patient. Nobody will live if they go on that or off of it, because you eventually have to be taken off of it. No one's lived off of it in this hospital. And I said, I want him on that machine. I'm not giving up on him.
All right.
And they gave me resistance because, they're doctors and they're looking at the textbook, the statistics and, and so forth.
It's not their field. It's not their son.
Exactly. And I said, we need to do any means possible. That was my journey of how my son's brand really embedded in me. It was at that very moment, the strength and the courage that I had to pull out of my soul to say, I need to fight with my son right now. He has done his job. He has been doing his job. He has been doing any means possible. But he tried to find a cure. He did everything.
Raise money. Awareness.
He raised money. He tried to find a cure. He's trying to, he took over his healthcare like you wouldn't imagine, and trying new things and, things that weren't even out yet, of trying to cure himself. There were so many different things that he did to try to get himself better. So he got on that ECMO machine and he lived through it, and they were shocked. They couldn't believe that he even lived through that surgery. Wow. And he lived through it, and he got on the ECMO machine. And then, they said, now his kidneys are going, he's not going to live. Every 2 seconds they were saying he was dying. And I kept saying, well, do this now, do this now, do this now. So we just we were throwing everything you could possibly throw at him. And, and he was fighting, and, he was trying to breathe on his own. You saw the little things, and then he was in a coma, and then he was trying to come out of that coma, and he had great brain, everything was there, and and the only one he would listen to would be me at that time, but that was the time when he, his whole life he was thinking of everybody else, and this was his moment that he had to totally 100% just think of himself, and he fought for, and then we took him off of ECMO because he was getting better, and he lived, and they said that he would die if we did that. So we took every single step we could possibly take to save his life. There was nothing that, even though in my mom's mind, I say something else, but in reality, there was nothing else that we didn't throw at him. And the entire time they said, we don't know what's wrong with him. The entire time. How do you not know? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How do you not know that? And it was just, and so we had a big dirt team. Hundreds and hundreds of doctors were working on him. He was the worst young man that was in that hospital. He was fighting for his life. And I went out and I did these lives. It was my first time, and I was a mess. People came to see him. People rallied church. People were going to church, praying. I mean, he had a village behind him. People that were really, really, really fighting for him. And anyway, whatever brought him in there started happening again. And long story short, Marcus passed away November 4th of 2019. And when he passed away, we still didn't know why. He was still engrafting. I mean, there was always that threat at that time that now, because he had no immune system. So here we are throwing everything at him. We're going to, this poor thing that just got his bone marrow is what's going to happen with this bone marrow? I mean, this donor, we reached out to the donor. We're not supposed to do that by law. We reached out to the donor to have any questions about, them. And we felt bad doing that because when you become a donor,
it's like anonymous.
It's anonymous.
Yeah.
It's anonymous. You don't ever have to meet the person ever again. You don't have to. It's anonymous. And if you can sign up to do that later on in life. So I absolutely, did not like to do that, but the person was wonderful and was very understanding with it all. So that was a good thing. Anyway, and to make this, because that's a very long story, and I could go in detail like no other about that. One thing I do want to say though, as much as we're talking about AMP clothing in any means possible, when you lose a child, I'm sure you said it too. When you lose a child, you say, I wouldn't survive that. I would die.
Mm-hmm.
You do. At that very moment, it's like nothing I've ever experienced in my life. At that very moment, that is what happens. And so it's been a journey for myself. And I felt like I really let him down in a lot of ways. Survivor's guilt and all kinds of things come into play. But my son left a treasure. It's a treasure. Clothing is a treasure. Mm-hmm. Not many people have that's lost their children. And, and I've met quite a few people that have, and they're like, what do I do now? It's like, what do I do now? And I'm fortunate enough that I was left a treasure, that I can continue his legacy. I can continue to be his messenger. And that's what's kept me alive. That's what's kept me, that's what's kept me going. And it's been a journey. It's really been a journey.
Well, it's not over.
No.
But you're doing a phenomenal job. I'll continue to push AMP clothing where I can, wear the brand. This is an amazing hoodie. It's super comfortable. Feels great. It fits perfect.
Good.
It's real quality. So I'll wear this to help promote the brand. And any of my listeners, if anybody donates 50 cents, go and check out the website. We'll have that posted in the description and everything like that. If you want to just repeat again where they could find you, and then we'll kind of land the plane.
Well, just one more time, come to my annual pop-up 2024. Tickets are on Eventbrite. So look on Eventbrite for those tickets. And it is April 28th, Sunday, April 28th from 3 to 9. Be prepared to leave there impacted and feeling every kind of emotion that you can have, and having a great time. And, and be able to meet me. And I'm going to be doing the power speech and, having so many people there. And you can see me on Amp Clothing _ and you'll see the
Instagram.
And you'll see the onk on there, which is everlasting life, so my son had that. And you'll see the onk to Amp Clothing _ and again, you can go in my bio to look in the threads, and also to my Beacon accounts as well for any kind of donations. And you can check out the website, but you can reach me personally on there through text message on Beacons if you're interested in something or looking at something. But right now, what I'm really doing right now is I'm really preparing for a big bulk for this event. So definitely check me on there. And again, anymeanspossible.myshopify.com, is the website. Like I said, I'm working on it very hard, and it's not up to everything that I want at this particular time, but, I hope I'm sure people have already seen Amp Clothing. People are seeing them like all around throughout the town. Like, wait a minute, what is this? What is this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, to tell people also, you got to get it by any means possible. And what that also means is some people think that getting it by any means possible is, going for something and then becoming successful.
Right.
Right. Like, is it? And then if it doesn't happen, oh my God, I did any means possible is going for something. And if it doesn't work out, you got to look at all your other resources. You got to look at all of your other options and things that you can do. And you might have to do it differently. It's about change, and so you got to keep going with that. Okay. It didn't work this way. Well, we got to find another way. You know what I mean? Great example. My son, they said, you can't have any more children. He said, well, okay, I'm going to the sperm bank. Do you understand what I mean? Like, you got to find different ways to do things. People are going to tell you all your life you can't do something, especially doctors, teachers, parents, everybody. You got to find different ways to be able to negotiate or to find your dreams. It's not always going to be just one straight and narrow one way. And you gotta find something in you, and something that can inspire you, and any means possible is that for, anything that's positive. And I'm talking about, any means possible, go rob a bank. No. It's a very positive mission statement that my son really wanted to instill, and I want to instill into people. And so get it by any means possible, and don't give up. Don't quit. Listen, I've wanted to quit a million times. There was this one networking I did. I think it was the second photo party. I got up and I was like, I don't want to fucking do this. You know what I mean? Yeah. Oh, excuse me. But, I don't want to do this. I want to quit. I don't want to do this. What am I doing? Like, he should be doing this. This is ridiculous, and so forth. And I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it. And then I thought, people are counting on me. I've made commitments. I have a family. I have my daughter. I have my grandchildren. I've made a commitment with you. Remember the last time? I made this commitment with you, and then it didn't work out.
Had to reschedule.
Yes,
but hey,
we
it works out.
Yeah, but so that's any means possible. And any means possible could even go down to the fact of I had a punch list for months after, that happened with my son, and after Marcus. And so I had to have a punch list saying, number 1, brush your teeth.
Yeah.
Wash your hair.
Just to go through it.
Get up out of bed. Sometimes that is what any means possible is. At 3:00 in the morning, majority of people, they aren't having somebody say, come on, get up off of that floor. You got to find something in you. You got to find something in you, and you got to find your purpose somehow, some way. You cannot give up, because when you give up, you exist, and just existing is not. One thing my son had said, I wrote it down because I wanted to make sure I remembered. He said he knew he wouldn't live forever, but he wanted to leave something that would.
It's amazing.
So, yeah. Yeah. And a legacy is not leaving something for people. It's leaving something in people. So
beautiful. Well, I love to promote the pop-up shop.
Yes.
I'm going to do everything I can to be there. I have it on my calendar. So as long as nothing, you never know what comes up, but we should be good. I'm excited for it. We'll push it. Barbara DiLeo, I Will Not Lose podcast, Amp Clothing. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of I Will Not Lose podcast. To support the show, visit iwillnotlosepodcast.com. You can subscribe to your favorite podcast player, share the episode link, leave a comment. Your contribution is greatly appreciated. And if you're listening in and can't see the QR code for donation, go to tothedesigner.com/links, and there's instructions to donate up there. Thanks so much.